And that's the perfect moment for me to then turn my attention to the other big story that we've been tracking, which could have a major implication for India. And I'm talking about Pakistan right now. What's been happening in Pakistan for the last couple of days is really, really interesting. And I'll give you a little bit of the backstory to that. Everyone thought that the elections in Pakistan this time were going to be a complete farce. And the build-up was obviously a complete farce. Here you have Imran Khan, the leader of the PTI, and there are 3 sentences imposed on him with weeks to go for the election. 7 years, 10 years, 14 years. His wife also being sent to prison. His number 2 being sent to prison. A number of PTI leaders defecting just because they couldn't take the pressure anymore. It was looking like a complete farce of an election. A selection which would just have the coronation, if you like, of Nawaz Sharif or whoever the army wanted as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. But then the script changed a little bit, and it changed in a rather dramatic manner. Because first of all, when the elections actually took place, we saw these images. There were long queues. A large number of people turned out to vote. And they turned out to vote in circumstances that continued to, of course, not be what you would expect in a free and fair election. You had the internet being switched off in large parts of the country. You saw long queues. You saw procedural delays that people felt were a way of stymieing a free and fair election from taking place. All sorts of conspiracy theories were being circulated about the fact that the internet was off and people could not connect on their mobile phones. But despite all of that, people turned out to vote, and they voted in very large numbers. And then after that, something happened that was even more interesting. You had the PTI, Imran Khan's party, and remember, the PTI lost its election symbol. It couldn't actually contest. A large number of independents were contesting who were affiliated to Imran Khan. And when the first results started to come out, they were winning. They were well in the lead. Now, of course, what follows after that remains shrouded in mystery, in confusion, and it's not quite clear what the final form of the government will be. Or, if I use the correct words, what the final form of the government will be allowed to be by the Pakistani army and by the Pakistani state. But whatever happens, you have to say that the denouement was a surprise and it was interesting. And for people watching those elections in India, it did open a lot of questions. What exactly is happening here, and how should India react to this? And for more on that, we're now being joined by Indrani, Bagchi, the CEO of the Ananta Aspen Center and one of the country's top foreign policy and strategic thinkers. Indrani, I mean, look, whatever finally happens, when all the dust settles, when the government is finally sworn in with whatever powers it's got, I have to say, your jaw must have been, falling open when those early results were coming in. I mean, my God, what was that?
Oh my God, I was up half of last night, just watching the trends coming in. Imran Khan is in jail. Imran Khan's party doesn't actually officially exist. His people are contesting as independents and winning. The trends that we saw at least till late last night and early this morning was about over 150 seats where PTI members as independent candidates were leading. In fact, at one point last night, I saw Nawaz Sharif was trailing in both his constituencies in Lahore and Mansehra. So yeah, that was, I mean, it's unbelievable because we were, until day before yesterday, we were convinced that we knew what the outcome was.
I mean, look, Indrani, clear health warning and everything that we say, that who knows, whatever finally happens by the time everything is decided, no one knows what the final picture is going to be. There could always be a coup after a coup, who knows. Army may well want to have things its own way, as it always does. But that having been said, it clearly showed that, elections in a sense are a scary business if you're the Pakistani army, because they've tried everything they could. They sent, Imran Khan to more than 20 years in prison. They arrested his key lieutenants, party broken up, not having a symbol. But still, people came out and they voted, and they seem to have voted in a manner that the establishment may not have liked. So, whatever the dominance of the Pakistani army that we keep talking about, do you think some questions around that right now that need to be kept in mind, especially when other people interact and deal with Pakistan? Is it as dominant as everyone once thought it was?
Indeed, indeed. And in fact, the sort of diminishing of the Pakistan army, if you wish, has been underway for the last few years. You have seen, even with General Bajwa in power, that people have been pushing back, that terror groups that worked under the army and the ISI no longer are not always following the diktat. They expected Taliban, whom they had nurtured for decades, to deliver on the Tehreek-e-Taliban, which is the TTP. They didn't. The Taliban, in fact, the Pakistan army is now engaged in conflict with the Taliban Afghanistan, something that we had not even considered. On 15th of August 2021, when the US left, the same Imran Khan was celebrating it as losing the shackles of slavery. Within 3 years, Pakistan army, Pakistan security forces are at war with the Taliban. In KPK, in Balochistan. The results, whatever they may be, but the trends on the ground are very, very different.
All right, Indrani, so let's now look at this from a policy point of view, and from the point of view of countries like India, or the rest of the world for that matter, who try to figure out how do we deal with Pakistan. Now, till now, there's always been this big question: whom do you talk to in Pakistan? Whom should you actually have a discussion? And clearly there was a view that, well, you could talk to the elected government, but it doesn't really matter because the elected government doesn't have eventual say. It's the Pakistani army that really controls the remote control, and so talk to the army. But now, if the army also doesn't seem to have control, then it may well be a good signal for the future, but for the moment, there may be a vacuum that is going to exist for a period of time. So whom do you talk to?
Well, most certainly, and actually this is an answer or a riposte, if you will, to many people in India who say that, the army is in charge, let's talk to the army. It completely undermines any democratic project in Pakistan. And what you're seeing on the ground is literally people voting and people exercising a democratic right, however constrained that may be, however undermined that may be. But they're exercising a right, and that right is very different. So for India, as a democracy, to bypass the civilian or the elected government to deal only with the army would have been folly. And I'm glad we have not done it. And I'm hoping that we will not do it.
Indrani, were the elections free and fair? Obviously, big question marks about it. Was there an attempt to try and influence the result? Obviously, that's also crystal clear from multiple things that we've seen. But the way the people then came out to vote, the turnout that we saw, and if the early trends were anything to go by, then the way they seem to have voted, do you think there's a gesture of defiance in all of this from the people of Pakistan to the establishment, perhaps even to the Pakistani army, that really has taken everyone by surprise?
Correct. 100%. And it throws up interesting questions for India, as you rightly said, about how should India deal with Pakistan going forward? We have maintained, since August 5, 2019, there's been a sense of kind of benign neglect. Pakistan threw out the Indian High Commissioner, and diplomatic relations were downgraded. But in 2021, the two armies actually worked out a ceasefire deal, which has held even today. It holds. So my best answer to this is that as long as India does not become a factor in the domestic politics in Pakistan, we will be fine.
Indrani, one other question. Nawaz Sharif, when he came back to Pakistan, there was a lot of attention here in India about the fact that, oh, he's talking about peace to India. So, okay, he's going to be the selected candidate, the selected prime minister by the army and the establishment, but maybe that opens up certain windows for peace. So should you talk to Pakistan at some point, and maybe Nawaz Sharif is a good person to talk to? At least it was a debate that had started out here. Now, even if Nawaz Sharif is the person who's eventually crowned the prime minister in some form or the other, would it be a tainted victory because of all the things that we have seen around the election? And therefore, should India be talking to him, or perhaps just sit back and wait and see how things actually pan out over a longer period of time?
Oh, absolutely. It will be a tainted victory. There will be, depending on which scenario they go with, and there are several possibilities on the ground right now. But depending on how the next government shapes up, it is a fragile victory. It will be fragile. It will be unstable. But also, Nawaz cannot actually go away from or step away from a position that Imran took, which is that you have to reverse. India has to reverse 370 abrogation to be able to get back to talks with Pakistan. I don't see how Nawaz is going to.
Indrani Bagchi, thank you so much for joining us with that perspective.